Welcome to another episode of Movie Retreat. We're talking all things Superman, arguably one of the biggest movies of the year, one of the most anticipated movies of the year. Chris, I know this was high up on your most anticipated of the year, but I think this was number one on your summer most anticipated. Am I right?
Yeah, I mean, this was the movie that I definitely was the most hyped about. Just given James Gunn's track record, the Guardians of the Galaxy movies, especially the first one, is one of my all-time favorite comic book movies. One of my favorite movies of all time. And again, what he did with Suicide Squad, I thought was great. So I was very excited about him bringing a new vision to Superman and seeing what he could do with it.
Yeah, I was really excited for this too. I mean, I think the marketing for this movie has just been absolutely insane. Like it has been just 3 or 4 months straight of I just feel like everywhere I turn, I'm seeing Superman interviews. I'm seeing David Corn Sweat. I'm seeing Nicholas Holt. I'm seeing, James Gunn has been on this. I mean, every second of the day, I'm seeing James Gunn with a new interview. Rachel Brosnahan, the list goes on. So it's finally great to finally get to see this movie. And we're gonna start off by just giving our quick thoughts on it, and then we're gonna go in and do a non-spoiler review, and then we'll give a spoiler alert if you're watching this and you want to see, and we're gonna do a spoiler review, and we're gonna go a little bit deeper into it. So we'll have all that. Again, we will get into the spoiler part about the second half of this episode, but I'll let you go first, Chris. What were your overall thoughts on this movie? Like you're right when you got out of the theater, what was your feeling about it?
I loved it. I thought it was great. I know there's some things that we're going to talk about later that we kind of wish they'd have done differently. But as far as a Superman movie, like what I'm looking for, it hit all of those things. I love the tone of it. I said this when we were driving back is to me, it didn't feel like any other comic book movie I had seen. It was just everything they did it seemed very intentional. And I know that they were trying to set up a big universe. So I wish they would have kind of spent a little bit more time and just focus more on the Superman angle. But I get why they had to add this stuff. But just, quick thoughts. I loved it. I thought it was fantastic. It was everything that I wanted a Superman movie to be.
Yeah, I left feeling I don't know. I'm still wrapping my head around it. It's definitely a movie I want to go check out again, but my initial thoughts were it was a mixed bag for me. It was parts of it I absolutely loved and other parts did not click with me as much as I wanted to. There was things that I wish they would have done that never got done in the movie that I wish they would have leaned into a little bit more. So it was more of a mixed bag for me. I still enjoyed it. I still think it's worth going to see. I still liked it, but I wanted to love it. And I left really frustrated about it because I was just like, man, that could have been like great. Because there was elements of it that I really was getting like connected with and really enjoyed. And, there was other parts of it, like I said a minute ago, that I just could not for the life of me understand some of the choices that were in it. But overall, it's like it is a popcorn flick. It's like a popcorn movie. It's a fun movie. It's definitely a movie for the family. I could see kids really enjoying this movie, and I think that's what it's all about too. Is getting a new generation to love Superman. The more I've been thinking about it, a couple hours since the the screening, the our showing of it, I started thinking about that. Like if I was a kid, I wouldn't have those issues because I'm not like looking at it from like a critical perspective. I'm looking at it just from like a Superman movie. And that's part of the charm as well. So I'm, again, we'll get into what I kind of the issues I had with it personally, but overall, I still think it's a fun time at the movies. I still much prefer this over a lot of the recent superhero stuff we've been getting. And even though it didn't all connect with me, I enjoyed the different risks and chances that James Gunn did with the directing style and just some of the offbeat humor and so at least he's trying to do something a little different, which I appreciate. It's a lot better than just your typical run of the mill formula that we get a lot now since we've seen so many of these type of movies. But that was my overall like impression of it. So
Yeah. And I just think that I kind of left thinking what you thought. And when we left, there was actually a family that was walking up that their little son, he was probably 3. He was dressed in full like Superman, like the costume. And I just thought he's going to love this movie,
yeah,
and that is the point. I think, and I don't want to compare it to anything, but when The Dark Knight came out, I think it kind of changed our expectations of what a superhero movie could be. And I think that that's kind of done a negative thing to those kind of movies because now we expect every movie, not every movie, but you expect a lot of these movies to be like Oscar type movies, and they're not always going to hit those same things that a normal movie would. But I left I left thinking, man, I can't wait to see like what they do in the next one. I can't wait to see what they do with the Justice Gang or whatever. So, but yeah, initial thoughts. You hit on a lot of that on the way home, and
And I don't think I need it to be an Oscar thing. I disagree with that. I don't need an Oscar movie. Like Christopher Nolan did his own thing with that trilogy. That feels like a completely different thing than what we're getting with most of the superhero movies. I personally don't need that. I think that what happens is that, for me, Spider-Man 2 was that movie that was like, whoa, like, and even the
yeah,
first X-Men, like I look at those movies, I put those movies in the same category, like X2, Spider-Man 2. I'm not saying it's as good as The Dark Knight,
no, I
but
see
I
what you're
put it
saying.
in the same realm. Like
Yeah,
I think of those as like some of the Mount Rushmore movies. I'm talking about pre-MCU. MCU has changed it a lot. Like the world building, we're going to get into that later in the episode where we talk about the future of DC and like the whole thing that James Gunn is coming up with. But we're about to get into our full review here. But those were the initial thoughts. Were like, okay, I don't want to be too harsh on it because I wanted certain things to happen. I do want to look at it from the lens of like, okay, this is a fun popcorn movie. That's what it's really trying to be. But I just felt like there was a few beats that kind of missed out, and we'll just get right into it. So, for again, this is the non-spoiler part of the review, but the stuff that really worked for me, I'll start with the positives. The stuff that really worked for me, I think this movie was casted brilliantly. I think
they could not have done a better job
no.
casting.
Yeah, and James Gunn's got that. Like
Mhm.
you can say what you want about his movies. If it's not for you, that's fine. You can't argue that the dude can cast the hell out of his movies. Every character was brilliant. I thought David Cornsweet by far is my favorite Superman that's ever been on screen. Again, Christopher Reeve, that was before I really was like
Mhm.
that. It's hard for me to go back to watch those. I didn't really grow up with those movies like a lot of people did, so I'd probably have that fondness for him. But definitely my favorite Superman that I've seen in theaters that I just think he nailed it. He nailed every and in fairness, he got a lot more to do, I feel like. I think the writing for his character was very good because it gave him a chance to be more human and more relatable. Rachel Brosnahan and Lois Lane was great, but Nicholas Hoult, and again, just real quick, because I don't want to do a whole roll call, but the Justice Gang, and we're going to get into that with the future DC because we're definitely going to be seeing these characters again. That, Mr. Terrific, all these characters, Nathan Fillion, everybody's great in this movie. But I really went away thinking, dude, Nicholas Holt's one of the best actors working. He's incredible.
He knocked it out of the park. I
Yeah.
mean, I wrote down that he was the perfect amount of like crazy to where, and it kind of built throughout the movie. At the beginning, he's more like composed, and then you see him gradually like become more and more unhinged, which I love. But it was never like comical. It was never where it was just like, dude, that's kind of over the top,
Yeah. And I felt like he was I feel like he's just in his own world right now. Like he's in
Mhm.
another league. And that's how good he was. Because like David Cornsweet and Rachel Brosnahan were great, and especially Cornsweet, I was like really impressed with. But I had seen a lot of his scenes in the trailer, so I kind of knew what to expect from his performance in a way. But man, Nicholas Hoult, I went away from this movie thinking like, dude, like when I really think about all the movies this dude's been in, The Menu, Nosferatu, Mad Max. I mean, this dude is like got so much range. He takes chances. He
The
plays a
X-Men
bunch of different
movies.
characters. X-Men movies. He somehow he's doing these big budget movies, but he's always playing a very interesting character. And I feel like Lex is like like this perfect mesh of what he can bring to the table. He brings his own aspect to it, but he really just is like a chameleon, man. He gets lost in these roles. Like I said, to see him in Nosferatu and how he played that role to now Lex Luthor, again, man, I just went away with like, dude, I want to see more of Lex Luthor in the
Yeah.
DCU. Like, I gotta see, like, this character could be special if they can, and we'll see him again for sure. But man, I was impressed with him, and I love the way they introduced his character. And that's the other thing. I love this, and I disliked it. And I want to hear your thoughts on this, but I did love how we like literally got dropped right into this character with just a quick screen of like what's going on. It takes, we don't waste any time with backstory or anything like that. And again, without any spoilers, this was in the trailers, but this movie gets right into the action. It gets right into like you already know it's like year 3 of Superman basically. And I liked that, but I wish we would have seen, and I'll get more of this in the spoiler part of it, but I think that was a benefit to the movie, but also a little bit of a detriment at times with some of the stuff that happened off screen. I wish I would have gotten to see some of that. And so that was a big issue I had with the whole movie was like some of this stuff that they talked about. I thought would have been a great chance to really connect with Corn Sweat Superman. But yeah, overall the casting was great. James Gunn's direction was very. If you watch Guardians of the Galaxy 3 and you watch the Adam Warlock scenes, you can kind of get a gauge of how the action scenes played out. What'd you think about how the movie was shot and directed and everything? Did you like the different chances he took with the different angles and all that stuff?
I just thought it looked great. I thought that they did a good job of, because the flying stuff can be tricky, because if you don't get it right, or if it doesn't look, almost, this is gonna sound weird, but if it doesn't look real, then it can take people out. I like that they didn't spend a ton of time. There's not a ton of action shots of him actually flying where it's like close up. So I thought that was a good idea. I just feel like he did a very good job of, there's scenes where he's talking to Lois or he's talking to other people and stuff's going on in the background. And just the way, like, you can still see what's going on, but you're still focused on what's going on. He did that multiple times, and I really like that. I'm just a huge fan of the way that he approaches filmmaking, and I feel like he has a fresh take on everything that he does. Some of the positives that I had was, I thought they did a great job on the tone. I thought the tone was perfect.
Yeah.
I liked Man of Steel probably more than most people, but I understand why. Now seeing this, I understand why people had that kind of view, because Superman needs to be more of like a hope movie.
So wait a minute. So you liked Man of Steel and James Gunn's Superman. So you can like both. You don't have to decide.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Now,
Interesting.
I don't know. Maybe I'll be told later that that's impossible.
Ain't that interesting though? How you can like both of these interpretations of the character. And like, I didn't like Man of Steel. You know that. I wasn't a huge fan of Man of Steel. I think it had a lot of good things going on for it, but overall I just could not get into that movie. What was it about Man of Steel? What do you think that this movie not did better, but do you think that was, you're basically saying that him doing this different tone, that had to be how it was, to totally separate from the previous incarnations of the character.
And I think the stuff that we'll get into later will kind of hit on that, but that he had to make it so different than Man of Steel that I feel like he took even more chances than maybe he normally would have. I'll be honest, when I first saw the dog was going to be in it, I was like, man, I don't know how this is going to work out. And some of the stuff I saw in trailers for like the Justice Gang, I was like, I don't know. But all those things worked. And especially the dog, like, it was awesome. The dog,
we're talking about Crypto.
Yeah, Crypto was some of the best stuff in the movie. And again, I understand what they were going for in this movie, and I feel like they knocked it out of the park. They immediately, you kind of know from the first scene what the tone is going to be. It's going to be a lot more laid back, a lot more fantastical. It's not going to be something where, Superman's trying to be, like a human and fit in. Like, Clark Kent.
I did really like that. I liked how he was unabashedly Superman. And I liked how he enjoyed being Superman. A lot of these movies, and a lot of movies I love, it's that, like, with great responsibility, the epic Spider-Man 2 line, but like, or the Spider-Man line, and I love that reluctance, that hero reluctance, because that makes it a little bit more human. But I really like the choice of, this guy wants to be Superman. Like, Superman this is a Superman movie. When you look at Christopher Nolan's trilogy, that was a Bruce Wayne trilogy. This is a Superman movie, which I really thought was cool.
Yeah.
And I liked seeing some of the scenes with Clark Kent. I thought but I'm glad we didn't spend a lot of time with Clark Kent.
I agree.
I really liked how we got to see Superman be this fresh, this fun. And again, David Cornsweet, I thought he just did such a great job. I'd love to see another Superman movie, a direct sequel to this movie, as opposed to what we're probably going to get, which is a lot of, other characters. I just feel like I kind of disagree a little bit with you on how I thought everything worked. I felt like we spent there was so much stuff that got stuffed into the movie.
Well, let's say, let me hit on a couple and we'll get into our negatives. Other thing, I thought they did a great job of building the world. Yeah, they might have spent a little bit too much time on it, but after this movie, a lot of what's going on and how things work. And another thing, I just felt that, you said that Clark Kent didn't, we didn't spend a lot of time with Clark Kent. We actually did. He's just not wearing the Clark Kent costume, if that makes sense. Like, there's not a lot of
That's
time.
what I meant. Like we didn't spend a lot of time with the reporter
Yes,
of
there's
Clark
not a
Kent.
lot of
Yeah,
Daily Planet Clark Kent, which
right.
I was totally okay with. I didn't want to see him fumble around and pretend to be, kind of
But
awkward.
but this is mainly a Superman movie, and we'll get into that a little bit when we get to this scene. But they do, and you've seen it in the trailer, so it's not a spoiler. But obviously, the farm, there's a farm scene where you get a little bit of that Clark Kent, like vibe. It's kind of like a Smallville vibe. I did want to spend more time there, and we'll get into that in a little bit. But I do think that this was a Superman movie from the very first image of him going to the his like Fortress of Solitude, all that different stuff. So, but anyway, go ahead. I just meant that that's mainly what I meant is we didn't spend a lot of time with that aspect of Clark Kent.
Yeah. And I like that. I didn't want, like I said, I didn't want to spend a lot of time with him fumbling around and being a dork and all of that. I didn't need that. I thought there were a lot of scenes that the more I thought about it that showed him, especially with him and Lois, that, kind of shows you who he is. So overall, I was just really, I mean, those are the things I really liked. I'll start the dislike.
Well, let me get in my one more of my positives because I didn't go. Do you have any? Was that your like last positive?
I'll hit the rest of the stuff on the.
I will say that the casting was my main highlight of the movie. Another positive I really liked was I did really enjoy the feel of the movie. The movie was very colorful. It was bright. It was fun. It was energetic. It sometimes to its own detriment, it moved around a lot, but I never felt like it felt like everybody was having a good time and that this movie was building the look and feel of what James Gunn's DCU is probably going to be, which is a lot of interesting, fun characters, a lot of great attempts at some of the comedy worked in this movie, but I do like the feel of it because it did feel like something that was, almost had that Saturday morning cartoon vibe to me, which I really liked because that kind of is, when we take away our critic hat a little bit, not that we're like total, movie critics, but when we take like the analyzing the movie and we just kind of sit there and start thinking about like the fun characters, the costumes, the stuff. I mean, that's what it's all about at the end of the day for a lot of these superhero movies, But I wanted to just mention that too, is that I really thought that was a big positive as well. But anyway, so now the negatives, again, non-spoiler negatives, and then we'll get into our full spoiler review and we'll go a little bit deeper into this stuff. But just if you're watching to kind of see what to expect, what was like your number one main negative that like you just like thought was a missed opportunity? Maybe not even something you hated, but just something that didn't click with you or work for you.
It was overcrowded. There was a lot of time spent on things that I didn't want to spend time, not a lot of time, but there was time spent on things that I didn't want them to spend time on. I wish they would just focus that on, this goes into my other thing, is there's not enough of the Kents. I wish there had been 5 to 10 more minutes of his family, back in Kansas. And there's well, I'll say that for the spoiler part, but those were my two kind of main things, is that I understand that he has to build a world and it can't just be a Superman movie with nothing else added in. I just wish, I don't know if I wanted the movie to be 20 minutes longer. I just kind of wish they would have shifted some of those scenes to other things that I was more interested about. And again, maybe if they would have shown more of the Kents, maybe I'd have been like, man, they're kind of like, this is kind of dragging.
No, I thought the movie lasted. I was glad to see a 2-hour movie again.
I agree.
I'm personally just kind of, some of these movies that get to 2 hours and 45 minutes. Again, I'm a believer in like a movie needs to be as long as it needs to be, but at the same time, a lot of times, man, I miss the 2-hour movie, especially now with 30 minutes of trailers, 20 minutes of ad. Like I felt like the movie got in and out at the perfect time. I thought the pacing of in terms of that was really good.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm with you. It was overcrowded for me as well. And I think that's the thing that's very difficult now is like anytime you're building out a universe, like he's got to establish that stuff because again, we're going to see these characters in spinoff series or we're going to see them cross pollinate and other things like that. There's a cameo in here that we'll get to in the spoiler part of it that was that played really well. And I think it's just a sign of what he's going to be trying to do with his whole DCU. I did really enjoy at the beginning of it. When he got hired, he said, this is like chapter 1 of his DCU. And he said it was called Gods and Monsters or whatever. I liked how they even put that in the first, like, this is a world of gods and monsters. So I did like that he's got a plan I just think that for a general audience that doesn't keep up with it, like, people that just love this stuff and want to consume it every day like we do, and a lot of people do, it's nice for a general audience to kind of get a movie that, and I felt like they almost overdid it, but I think even for a general audience member, they didn't overdo it too much with like the Justice Gang and all these different characters. I think they were in there just enough to be like, you wanted, I won't even say you wanted more of them, but it was just enough.
Yeah, I wouldn't say you wanted more, but it wasn't like when they got on screen, you're like, oh God, here we go.
Exactly. Like, when they got in there, it was always a pleasant like experience with those characters.
Yeah. And something else that I'll say that. Let's keep on dislikes, and I'll put that in the
Well, we can get right into it. We can transition right into it. I just want to be able to say spoiler for people that might be watching that want to kind of come back to it. But the last thing I'll say in my spoiler-free part of it is, again, overall, I thought this was a pretty good movie. That's like the best way I can put it. It was like pretty good. Like it was. I didn't hate it by any means. I didn't love it, but it was pretty good. I could see myself on rewatches enjoying it more than hating it more. I can put it that way. Now that my expectations are removed from it, I think it'd be a movie that I could have fun with and just have on. And anytime I see it on, like when it starts getting streaming and all this stuff, it's got that fun feel to it, which I thought was probably the biggest strength of it. And then biggest weakness, I would agree. It's I think the biggest weakness for me would have to be that I wanted to see more conflict when it comes to what Superman had to deal with. And so now this starts our spoiler review. So from here on out, if you haven't seen the movie, this here is the spoiler review. We'll give you a few seconds here. Hopefully you come back and watch this. But so here's our spoiler review. I wanted to spend more time with David Cornsweet Superman. And he was on screen the entire movie. So don't get me wrong. I know we spent enough time with him. I guess what I'm saying is I wanted to spend more time in certain scenes with him. You mentioned the farm scene. I thought the farm scene with Pa Kent was one of the best scenes in the whole movie. That scene lasted 20 seconds, and I wanted to spend a little bit more time there. The way I can, if you remember Avengers Age of Ultron, there's a infamous farm scene that Joss Whedon wanted to get in the movie, and they just said, you got to put this story. If you want that scene, do some research on it. I won't go into the whole story, but that farm scene in that movie, I always loved that scene because it kind of shows them in a different element or whatever. I think that was a great opportunity to show the Clark Kent side of him, the childlike side of him back with his parents and stuff. And we just weren't there enough, man. I wanted to stay there a little bit longer, a couple more minutes.
5 more minutes, and I think I'd have been happy with it.
Because so much stuff happens off screen. At the beginning of the movie, they tell you that, it's been this long since he's been here. It's been this long since he's been Superman. He just lost his biggest fight for the first time ever. He stopped a war. And I wanted to see more of that on screen. Not to where it was over stuff, but I would have liked to have gotten it. Instead of him falling into the snow at the very beginning of the movie, I want to see him mid-fight already getting bested, showing him fail on screen. I thought would have been way more effective than just reading it. You know?
And the only thing I can think is that, to me, that would have been very compelling, like seeing him lose, as he's losing, like you said, kind of like 3/4 of the way into the fight. But that is a very cool shot of him hitting the snow, and then he's just all beaten to hell. And of course, that introduces us to Crypto and that whole thing. But I'm with you. Some of the things that they mentioned that happened off screen, I wish we would have seen that play out. Some of the stuff I wrote down, first off, Clark and Lois's chemistry is through the roof. Like, it is so, it almost makes you, it made me think back to Man of Steel and how, in comparison, like that.
Yeah, that never worked for me in Man of Steel. Henry Cavill and both, Amy Adams is great, but she just miscast in that movie, I believe,
But yeah, I mean, it's just through the roof. Like, you can tell that these people, are into each other. They don't waste any time, like, doing that whole thing where they flirt for a whole movie, and then at the end they, it starts off right off that they're together, and I like that. I thought another one of the best scenes in the movie was when she interviews Superman. I thought that was great because it showed you that's Clark Kent, right? But he's his real self. He's confident. And then when she starts, asking him these different questions, his mood changes. And I just thought performance wise, I was like, okay, this guy's, really good. Like he's going to be able to pull off anything that they ask him to.
Well, before you go into like, I want to stay just a little bit longer with, a lot of this happens within the first act of the movie. And I think that is one of the issues I had where I felt like a lot of interesting things. You even said the Lois and Superman dynamic. I agree. I think their chemistry was great. I liked seeing them. I really enjoyed their scenes together. But again, and I don't need a bunch of, I know we're trying to get away from the origin story, and I totally agree with it, because like we all know the origin stories. But I personally like to see development somewhere, I mean, we were just thrown into like, just, hey, take my word for it, he got beat, he got the hell beat out of him, he stopped a war, him and Lois are in love, you just got to take my word for it. I know we didn't show you that on the screen, but I'm telling you that's how it is. That bothered me a little bit, but I get it because you don't want to spend 30 minutes there. I just wish there was there could have been a scene or two that could have maybe been a little bit more where you're discovering this stuff for yourself.
And that's why I just think that it was a conscious decision to make this movie under 2.5 hours, because like you said, they could have easily added that stuff in, but now you're looking at a 2.5.
Or they cut some of the stuff that didn't work, which I can get into in a little bit. Yeah.
Long movie. Some of the other stuff that I'll get into is, it had a childlike tone, but there were emotional moments in the, it had emotional beats in the movie. One of the scenes, I don't know why this scene like hit me so hard, but when he is getting interviewed by Lois and she is asking him these questions and she says something about where he grew up and he's like, I'm not going to tell you that, that. Like, I don't know why, but that was just, that just kind of hit me. And I was like, man, like, I can't really explain it, but
but they never revisit it. They never I really like that line too, but they never got around to it and paid it off.
I mean, I disagree. I think they kind of did when they first show up to their house, and that was the first time that Lois had met them, and she's kind of looking around and again, I wish they would have spent a little bit more time of her like looking through old pictures or something. That would have been cool. But yeah, I just felt that some of the best scenes in the movie wasn't where he was beating the hell out of people. You know what I mean?
And that's where I think my biggest issue with this movie comes in. The action looks good. It really does look good. And that is one thing I will give Man of Steel. I thought Zack Snyder, I mean, you can't take that away from Zack Snyder. I think he filmed those fighting scenes really well. But let's just stay on James Gunn. But I wanted to give kudos there because I think it looks different. But I think James Gunn did a good job with the flying scenes and the fighting as well. But that was the issue I had, is I never felt like there was any real conflict, that he was the best conflicting scene I saw is when he was trying to save that baby, when he goes to I forget the character's name, is like the shape shifting character.
Metamorpho, I think.
Yeah. And he's trying, he's trying to hold on to that baby while he's being attacked, and he's in that void river or whatever. And Crypto, that was a great action scene because you had a lot of different layers there, and he was in the active pursuit of getting saving someone, and also trying to keep Crypto safe, and trying to get back into the portal and all that. So I thought that scene worked extremely well. The other scenes didn't have that for me because there was never anything. The main objective for Lex throughout the whole movie was just basically to either embarrass Superman or to kill him, or to show that he's not what he said he was. And for me personally, I don't think that's enough for me to like truly get invested in the action sequences, and you don't have to go the Spider-Man route where he's saving Mary Jane every movie. You don't have to do that. But I would have liked to have seen Superman trying to protect people while also like having to make a tough choice, not a life or death, but just having to make tough choices, because the whole movie was about morality, and it was about, even the Pa Kent scene, which I thought was just so strong, was like, it's about the choices you make, and that whole thing would have been a lot better. I think it would have been paid off a lot better if it's, a movie about the choices you make you who you are. He had to make a tough choice, or he had to make a choice somewhere in that movie, I just felt like that would have paid off for me a lot better. And again, I'm not saying it had to be him saving Lois. I was actually very relieved that he didn't have to save Lois in this movie.
That's another thing I wrote down, is that Lois was competent, but she wasn't like OP'd. Like she wasn't doing stuff that just didn't, she wasn't beating up henchmen, and she wasn't, You know what I mean? Like sometimes they throw that
No,
in the
she did
movie,
exactly what you would think a reporter
and
would do.
he's not doing the Peter Parker thing where he's constantly, you know, chasing after Mary Jane, and
Yeah.
like they didn't have any of that, and I loved that. I thought that was such a good decision, because I hate when movies just they throw that trope, and they don't do it as much now as they did like in the early 2000s. But yeah, I love that too.
I just would have liked to have seen the decision because the whole movie, you know, okay, so we'll go ahead and get into this. I know you got another, but let's get into this while we're kind of on it. The Bradley Cooper as Jor-El was an interesting choice. I mean, that I know that's like, oh, look, it's Bradley Cooper. You know, it was distracting for me because he's just in there and he's just reciting this line over and over because, you know, they're trying to get this footage and, you know, basically long story short, as y'all know, if you're watching the spoiler review, you've seen it. It's basically they want him to be the king of that world or the god of that world.
Yeah, you don't know that at first.
Right.
You
But
find
I'm
that out
saying
later.
that was just such a weird. Even if they bring him back to be Jor-El in other movies, that just felt distracting to me.
They're gonna have to, because if they don't, then to me that is a completely worthless cameo. Like you could have put anyone in there.
That's why it felt confusing.
Yeah, so I can't imagine them not bringing him back as doing something, maybe doing a Krypton movie or something where they focus on, you know, life before Superman or whatever. But something else I'll hit on is you talked about Zack Snyder's fight scenes. Zack Snyder, for whatever you know you want to say about him, he knows how to direct like amazing set pieces. But for me, they last way too long.
Yeah.
This movie didn't do that. I didn't sit there through a 20-minute action scene. Most people might be like, well, it's a suit. Like you want to, I don't want to see 20 minutes of the same two people fighting each other. Like that girl, it's kind of like the John Wick series. You know, you can only see a guy get shot in the head so many times before you kind of like, okay, let's get to the next part.
Yeah.
So that was another thing I really liked. I really liked the Justice Gang. I thought that they were in it just enough, like we talked about earlier, but they weren't in it too much. I thought Nathan Fillion, he looked so ridiculous, but it fit his character in a weird way. Like it almost made sense that he looks that way.
Mm-hmm.
And I just felt that they gave everybody enough to do to where it made a point of like, okay, there's a reason for them to be in this movie, and I like that. Do you want to start getting into our negatives, or do you have any?
No, let's just keep it rolling with what we're talking, because there's some stuff I want to like. Mr. Terrific, I thought was awesome.
Yeah,
I thought he was really cool. I'm not even going to try to pronounce the actor's name because I'm going to mess it up. But he, you know, we saw him in you know, X-Men First Class, is that whole funny thing about like, you know, that he. I think there was an interview where he said he thought they were going to bring him back in some of these other movies. Yeah, they told him. Yeah. And so I like seeing this guy because this character is just so much of a better character that he gets to play, and he really knocked out of the park and made a character that was supposed to be cool feel cool without trying too hard.
Yeah, and I never thought that I would have left the movie being like, man, I could see I would love to see a movie of just that character.
Oh, they're for sure going to do a spinoff series.
I would love to see that now, whether it's a movie or a series, like whatever.
Yeah,
I would love to see it now.
Hot Girl, the actress, I thought she was great in Alien Romulus. So, and I know she's in Last of Us. I liked Hot Girl. I'd say she was the one that probably got the least amount to do, which is probably by design because we're definitely going to be seeing her again. But Nathan, so I wanted to just shout her out real quick. But Nathan Fillion as Guy Gardner was amazing.
Yeah.
As much love as Mr. Terrific's getting online, I saw a lot of people. I tried to avoid spoilers, but everybody was just talking about how he like was the MVP of the movie, and I can understand going that route, but because he was great. But to me, Nathan Fillion added exactly what needed to be added in those scenes. He was funny. He was, you know, an asshole. He was like, you know, but he never did anything. Like it was just enough.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to think of the word because I don't want to just, you know, be like, oh, he's just a jerk and all this stuff, but he played it so well. We're only like Nathan Fillion's just got a gift for playing that guy that you love, but you also love to hate in a way because he's just so like quick and he's just so like, you know, but he's like a lovable idiot kind of guy.
Yeah.
But he was a badass too, which I really liked. They didn't make him like they didn't make him just a comedic, you know, oh, he sucks. We got to come in and save him. He was totally formidable, which I really liked.
Yeah. And a big issue I had with like the Justice League stuff in the previous DCU is that they made Superman too powerful. that and look, I know he's by far the most powerful and all that, but if you go back to like when they're fighting Darkseid or whatever, and they're getting their ass kicked, and then he comes in there, or not Darkseid, but Steppenwolf, and then he comes in there and just wipes the floor with him without even breaking a sweat. In this movie, they didn't do that. Like all these people contributed in huge ways and held their own. Like they had that little Mr. Fantastic scene where he's protecting Lois, and he's just wiping the floor. That kind of
Mr. Terrific.
What did I say?
I do it too, Mr. Fantastic.
Oh yeah,
I do it all the time. It's
Terrific.
I do it as well. I might have done it already in this episode, but Mr. Terrific.
Mr. Terrific. I'm sorry. So it reminded me a lot of, I can't remember which Guardians it is, but there's a
with Yondu. Yeah, it was
very very similar.
Yes,
feel.
It was,
yeah,
and that's just a cool character. Like if you just saw his character with his outfit and stuff with Mr. Terrific, you're like, what the hell? But he was just, and again, I can't stress enough how it was just effortlessly cool. And again, Hot Girl, I just don't know much about that character at all. And I know that we're going to get more from her. She, again, I said it before, she probably had the least amount to do. Again, I know I keep messing up, but the shape shifting guy, I thought he had some good scenes there. But that was definitely a positive.
The only thing I disliked about Hot Girl is that they kept having her do the scream thing. I thought they overdid it.
Yeah, like that should be like a thing. Yeah, that should be. And again, I know you want to stay true to the character, and it was mainly we saw her doing action sequences. So I mean, it was kind of nice to see her outside of the action. Like I really like that scene where they're all just sitting around talking. Kind of gives you a little bit more of like an idea of who the characters are. Again, we're easily going to see these characters again. I could definitely see this being the running current, kind of like in the MCU where you had Coulson. I actually think the Justice Gang and Max Lord are going to be that running current. We get a little bit of Max Lord here by Sean Gunn, which I'm really excited to see what he does with it. But I think that's going to be the Agent Coulson of this DCU, is the Justice Gang with Max Lord.
But yeah, I mean, overall, just those were the things that I just really thought they knocked out of the park. I do want to touch on Lex a little bit. I thought he was, I loved how they had him kind of like quarterbacking the fights and stuff. Like he had studied all these, fights from Superman, and he was telling, and I know that we disagree a little bit on this, but I liked how he was telling them like,
No, I didn't. I liked that scene.
Oh, you did? Okay.
Yeah, I liked that aspect of it. I thought that was a great way to have him fight Superman without him obviously fighting Superman and getting in like this high tech suit himself, Yeah,
I love that. I just thought it was so like, it showed you immediately that he's super intelligent, that he, knows what he's doing, that he's obsessed with Superman.
The problem I had is I wanted to explore that a lot more. I think that all the great villains,
why he was obsessed.
Yes. And again, you can say like, well, they're probably going to get to that in other movies. And this is where I know me and you disagree a little bit, probably because we talked about this a little bit before we recorded, is I don't like this thing where it's just assumed that we're going to get a sequel, or it's assumed that, we're going to get all these movies that's going to flesh out all these characters. I'm a firm believer in like, you just leave it all out on the floor, man. Like, you can do a sequel, you can do whatever. I didn't need to see a backstory on Lex, but I wanted to explore more of how Superman is shaped by his interaction. All the great heroes in these movies, their villain is like their counterpart. And anytime there's that villain aspect of it, that's when the hero can have like his defining moment, and it kind of brings out a part of the hero that he didn't know was there. It's like that typical hero's journey stuff. And I think all great villains do that. And that's the one big miss for this movie for me, is like, I loved so much of it when it comes to those two characters that I didn't get enough of Superman being put in a situation where he had to test his own worldview. He had to test his own morality, and it was all said to you, but I wanted to see it.
I wish they would have, the scene where he takes Superman to that, what did they call it? The middle dimension.
Oh, it's Pocket Universe.
Pocket Universe. When he took him to the Pocket Universe, I wish they would have spent like 5 minutes of Lex just like talking through the thing to Superman about why he hates him. And they did a little bit of that towards the end. He kind of explained like why he has such an issue with him, but I wish he would have just spent 3 to 5 minutes like fleshing that out a little
See,
bit.
I don't want to see them talk about it. That's what I'm trying to say. I want to see it through. I want the audience, and again, I know you're making this for like kids, families, whatever. So you're going to put that. I totally understand why they make the choices they make, but I wanted to just see that happen. I wanted to see Lex's actions force something out of Superman without. You didn't have to get super dark with it, like life or death. Even though there is that super dark scene where he's playing the Russian roulette, which I thought was a good scene. But again, just like with everything, it's like he even made a joke like, "Oh, that went quicker than I thought." That's how I felt a lot about the scenes I was really enjoying. I felt that that was another scene that could have had a ton of tension. It could have really let you see, it show Superman seeing a side of humanity, that he was like having to confront of like, as good as I'm trying to do is everything I'm trying to do is to save people and be good. But like, even with me doing that, bad things still happen. I would have liked to have seen them explore that without getting super dark and mess up the tone. But I wish they would have just done that a little bit more. Again, that's just my own. I don't want to judge a movie based on my own, like what I wanted from it.
Mm.
Be, but that's how much I was loving Nicholas Holt's Lex Luthor. I
Yeah,
wanted to see more of that aspect.
yeah, and I get why you feel that way, and I understand it. I just, to me, I guess I didn't need that to feel the tension between the two. I guess in fact, one of the biggest like scenes that I hated, and it was a quick thing, um, was when the huge monsters like the kaiju or whatever is like tearing up Metropolis, and you see Superman save a couple people, and then he goes and he like saves a squirrel, and he like puts the squirrel down. I was like, okay, like we get it. Like he's trying to save everything. I didn't need. I thought that was silly. And again, I know it's a movie with a
The
guy in
only
a
reason I
cape.
like that is because it showed that he looks at. I know what they were going for. I kind of agree with you. I just didn't think the kaiju scene was good at all. I thought the kaiju scene was very like I could have done without that. I would have sacrificed that
I would
scene.
have rather the kaiju scene been as short as the Hammer of Bravia scene,
Yeah,
and then the Bravia scene or the Hammer be as long as the kaiju. Does
yeah.
that
But
make
I mean
sense?
that did sell the movie though. I mean that was a
Yeah.
great trailer moment of seeing the kaiju and all that stuff. So I don't dislike that it was in there, but um I could have done without it. I
Yeah.
would have rather spent more time at the farm. I would have
Oh,
rather
for
have
sure.
spent more time, another scene with him and Lois. I would have rather have seen a scene with Lex giving us a little peek into Lex,
Yeah.
where everything that Lex is on the screen for isn't just about a perfect example. And again, I'm really trying not to compare movies because it's just unfair to the movie itself. But I'm just using this as an example of like the Joker in the Dark Knight, Doctor Octopus in Spider-Man
Spider-Man
2,
2.
Green Goblin in the first Spider-Man, showing a scene where they're in their element, which they did that a little bit with him talking to like the president of that country. And but I wanted to see a peek into what you were saying of like, we know that Lex is like this, but like, can we get a little peek into something? And again, they're probably saving it for some other stuff, or they probably just assume that you already know all this but not everybody does know all that. That's the issue I have is like, we got to quit assuming that all general audiences know these characters like we thought they did. I mean, a new generation is being introduced to Superman for the first time,
Yeah.
being introduced to Lex Luthor for the first time. And so again, I'm nitpicking a little bit because I just think that Nicholas Holt was so good in this that I would have liked to have seen more of that. But the farm scene needed to be longer. I wanted to see more Ma and Pa Kent. I wanted to see more of that relationship. I thought the ending scene. Well, before we get to the very end scene, what do you think about the Ultraman stuff? What do you think about Ultraman being like a clone and stuff like that? Let's talk about that. That's a big spoiler, but it's also
Well,
spoiler.
I know we think differently on this. I liked it because to me it made sense of like why this guy was able to be on par with Superman. Because at the very beginning, in the little scroll thing that they do, they say that Superman is the most powerful metahuman. So it wouldn't make sense for just some random villain to be as powerful as him and kind of knocking him all around. So I really liked it. Could they have done something else? Honestly, I think I would have just preferred for them to just leave the mask on and not reveal anything.
Yeah.
Maybe it's a robot or I don't know, but
Think
that
we'll see
didn't.
that character again?
No, I mean, they might do like a Bizarro thing at some point.
That's what I'm wondering, if we're gonna see like that character. Like, I hope not. I didn't like the way that reveal happened. It like the mask comes off like it's gonna be this big reveal, and it's like, oh, okay.
But it did explain why he was able to get into the fortress.
It did, but I mean, it just didn't work for me at all. I hated it. Like, I liked Ultraman, but when he took off that mask, I was like, oh, it's an evil Clark.
Yeah, honestly, I wish
his long hair.
I wish they would have just left the mask on and then never explained.
I would have,
it, I guess. But and again, I don't know the like Superman lore. I don't know if that's who Ultraman really is.
But that's why it's good because again, a lot of people that are going to be watching this movie, and the box office success is going to be, opening weekend's one thing, but the box office success over the long term, you gotta you can't just assume that everybody knows all this stuff, So like,
yeah, but if you don't know it, is it gonna? I don't think it ruins the movie.
No, but I think that's what's important, to show stuff on screen.
Yeah, and I agree with you. I just think, look, there's things that I felt they could have cut that I wish they would have added more to. But then you start getting into, like we talked about, now you start getting into 2.5 hours.
I agree. I don't know the best way to do it. That's why, again, James Gunn's a talented filmmaker. I'm not, that's just how I viewed the movie. Like, I wanted to see more stuff on screen. I wanted to see,
and maybe that's a good sign, is that you wanted to see more of this world.
No, it's not. No, that's not what I mean. I mean, I wanted to see more of the interesting stuff on screen. I didn't find totally interesting him battling Ultraman. It just felt like, it just didn't feel like there was any stakes there. It was like, I would have much preferred, like, Invincible, the TV series does it great, where how they do they send off those robots to fight Nolan, and that those robots can't really kill Nolan and Invincible, but they slow them down and they're just relentless. I would have liked to have seen that from Lex's robots that he sent out, but they were just dispatched very quickly. And again, I don't even care if he's fighting anything. It's like Lex could have been putting these different things in the city that, like, he had to go save people for. I don't know how to do it. I don't want to try to rewrite the movie. I just would have liked to have seen more of the stuff that I thought was super interesting. I would have liked to have just seen at least one scene of the conflict of, like, Superman having to make some type of decision in the movie, to where it's like there's no right or wrong decision. It's like and that's the great thing about what Lex can provide Superman, is that Superman's like right or wrong. He's this is the good way, this is the bad way.
Well, and see, I kind of felt that, and again, they didn't show this. I wish they would have, but I feel like they kind of hinted at that a little bit, but they ruined it at the end, because when he goes to that other country, he thinks he's helping people, but he's actually causing problems. And then later on, you realize that guy, he's just going to wipe those people out. Like, it could have, you know what I mean? So I agree, or I see your point of view on that. I didn't need that to feel like there was enough of a conflict, I guess. But again, I get why you.
Yeah, I thought Cornswet was so good that I would have liked to have seen him be pushed to his limits by Lex a little bit. I felt like Lex was a formidable opponent. I actually liked the angle that he's trying to make him look bad in the public eye, but that lasts 2 minutes. Like, somebody throws a cup at his head because that, the encryption came out, and then that was it. It was just like, gosh, how can we didn't even show any scenes of Superman being the villain, like, to society, and him thinking, I'm helping all these people, and, like, look how they're treating me. Well, we got none of that.
Well, and then it gets to one of the cameos that I know you liked, and I
loved it,
was Peacemaker on one of these, like, news talk shows.
I love that, man.
And man, I'm telling you, like, I'm not saying John Cena is a good actor by any means.
I think he is.
He was born to play that role. Like, he is so good as Peacemaker. Will he ever win an Academy Award? I don't know.
No, who cares? But
I'm saying,
yeah,
like,
I think
he is just so good at that role that I just love it.
I think John Cena is a really good actor. I feel like for somebody who didn't pick up acting till later in life, he's a really good actor. Like, have
you seen 12 Rounds?
No. What is that? What is that movie? Is he a cop?
Yeah, he's I think the bad guy is Littlefinger from
okay. I do think that, just like we say with Dwayne Johnson, I mean, now Dave Bautista's doing his own thing. He's becoming a true act. I mean, that dude's impressive.
Yeah.
But I do like how John Cena knows kind of his limits, and he's again, like you said, he's not going to do like this, even though I think he's capable, because in Peacemaker season 1, there's some really good emotional
Yeah,
moments.
there are.
And I just want to put out there that I think Peacemaker season 1 is incredible. I love Peacemaker. So I'm a big James Gunn fan. And I trust what he's doing in the DCU. And this is how we're going to close our episode, is just talking about what we see, these last 10 minutes here, about what we kind of see the future of what we can kind of expect next. We see the big cameo. You talked about one cameo. The second cameo was Supergirl. What'd you think of it?
I had issues with that.
Yeah.
Now again, I do feel like they'll flesh her out, and they're setting up like her arc, like that's the beginning of her arc, and then but yeah, to have her like stumbling in drunk, and Crypto leaving with her, and this and that, because that's actually her dog.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I thought that was kind of, I didn't like it. I thought they could have introduced the character. She could have still been like a bratty teenager, or early 20s or whatever, and not be that obnoxious. But again, I have to trust his plan, because he's so good at these kind of things that we'll see how it plays out in the long run. But yeah, at the time, I was not a fan of that.
Yeah, I didn't like it. It felt like a cheap, oh, by the way, we're making Supergirl. I hate this. I hate it. I'll be honest. The Peacemaker one felt natural, because it was almost like a callback to when people left the movie. If you had no idea who that was, you're like, dude, was that John Cena? Oh, Peacemaker. There's a Peacemaker show. With this, it felt just so forced, of hey, Supergirl's next,
Yeah, I don't understand why they didn't. If they were going to do that, why didn't they just have that as I mean, keep the part where it shows Superman looking at all those photos of him growing up, but cut the Supergirl thing until an after credits thing.
Yeah, and even the quick after credit scene was him and Crypto hugging. It's we saw him, he called him dog, like you were at the beginning, the dog. And then he finally started using Crypto. I love that relationship. And then as soon as all right, go back with her, and you're almost I don't want Crypto to go there. I just saw him laying on his chest. He loves Clark,
Yeah.
So anyway, we'll see. I'm sure that when we see all this, man, in hindsight, we're going to look back and be like, oh, okay, we get it. I just want to kind of keep putting out there that if you don't know the character of Supergirl, and you don't know the comic run that the movie's going to be based off of, that scene's probably playing a little bit like it's playing with us. Is what the hell is this?
Yeah, if you're not familiar with who Supergirl is, then you're gonna be like, what the hell?
But I want to touch on that real quick. The final scene where they're playing the music and he's seeing all those. I thought if that would have been the heart of the movie. And again, I liked this movie. I didn't love it. Like I told you, I thought it was pretty good. I want to see it again, but I thought that right there was what James Gunn does best, is he gets to the heart of things. And I felt like he had to do so much stuff with this movie, and he's doing so much stuff. He the future DCU, he's writing all these different things. He's hiring. I mean, he's not just a director. He's a world builder. So I sympathize with him a bit on this, because you have all these ideas and you're trying to figure out how to fit all of it in there. But what made the Guardians movie so special is that he had all those moments. There was all those moments in those movies. Every character had that hero defining moment. And I loved that scene where he's looking at those old family videos. And so I thought that was just such a powerful scene. And it really was a great scene to end the movie on, because it left me with a big smile on my face. Dude, that's what the movie should have been,
Yeah.
But overall, I really enjoyed it. Scenes of it. Again, I keep saying that I really enjoyed it, but I did have some major issues with it. But it didn't bring it down to where I was like, golly, I had fun at the movies. And at the end of the day, that's important.
And see, I'm going to stick with that. I love this movie. I think it's fantastic. Were there issues? Yeah, I had some issues with it.
The big stuff or the stuff you loved outweighed it
by a mile.
Yeah.
And, it's one of those things where, I wish that I could have spent a little bit more time with these people. And but to me, that means that I care about these characters. There wasn't a single character that I was like, God, will they just stop going back to this character?
And that's what was so great about Devin Cornsway, is you instantly felt, and the robots, Alan Tudyk voice in Robot 4 was a great choice. He did get you immediately on his side. He was I really liked his portrayal. Again, we've already talked about the casting, but the future of the DCU, I think I'm really interested to see the shows, like the Green Lantern Corps. I think, the Kyle Chandler being in that. I know you haven't seen that movie on Netflix where the other guy, I think he's playing Jon Stewart. It's called something Ridge. Anyway, he was great in that movie.
Oh yeah.
Rebel Ridge, I think it's called.
Yeah.
anyway, I don't know if you've seen that. You need to watch it. It's really good. But that show is going to be great. Peacemaker season 2 coming in August. I think Peacemaker season 2 is going to do some.
Yeah.
We're going to see. I think we're going to start seeing a lot cross pollination and all these projects. But I'm excited to see where James Gunn takes us, because it seems like he keeps saying that he wants to have writers. He's like, we're going to have the script before we do anything, and that means a lot to me personally. I think I'm hoping this movie does well enough to where we can at least see his vision.
Well, and
come to life a bit.
I think it will. Is it going to break records? Probably not. But I do think that this was a good first step, similar to the way Iron Man was. But Iron Man focused on Iron Man. There wasn't anything really.
You didn't know that it was. That movie was like.
I didn't know how far it was. going to expand. And I don't think they knew how far it was going to expand at first. I think they started being like, oh, okay, we can add this, we can add this. So I do think it's a great start for the DCU. I'm excited to see what they do next. I'm like you. I love how close of attention he wants to pay to each and every script that comes in, because I think that's what got Marvel in trouble, is they were just like, yeah, green light it.
They were almost a victim of their own success with having to churn out content, having to get stuff for Disney Plus. But I will say, man, they did the one thing right, and that's why I'm not being too hard on it, even though that, again, without rehashing it, my issues that I had with it. But they got the one thing right that I think, we just talked about, are some of our reviews for Rebirth, Jurassic World Rebirth. They did the one thing that if you get this right, I can overlook some things too. And they got the characters right. I loved Superman. I was cheering for him. I wanted to see him. Lex, even though he was just horrible in this, in terms of you didn't want to root for him. He was just horrible the whole time.
Very evil person.
You're like, dude, I can't wait to see Nicholas Hoult again, as Lex. Even Rachel Brosnahan as Lois Lane. This is the first time I feel like Lois Lane was fully fleshed out. And again, the casting's great. I want to spend more time with the characters. That's the biggest compliment I can say for the movie. Is I want to spend more time in the world, more time with the characters. My biggest complaints, like you've been hearing, I wanted more of what I really liked,
and I do think that means that the movie was good.
I do. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It wasn't perfect, but we don't need perfect. It was entertaining. It did its job. It was pretty good. I think with rewatches, I can, without my, because you always have that expectation before a movie. Maybe I'll enjoy it more the second time around, because again, that's what you come back to, is the characters more than the movie itself.
I think you will, because I think our expectations were maybe a little too high, because we were just like, man, we were talking about how excited we were for this movie, and again, it hit most of my expectations. So I think on rewatches but I want to hit on one thing before we wrap up. My favorite shot of the entire movie was when he helped that lady. He stopped that building from crushing that lady in her car, and the lady drives off, and then she's looking back, and he's rising above the thing. I just thought that was
that was a great scene,
shot.
And I guess that's again, I won't rehash, but I wanted more of those moments, that hero defining moment. And I bet we do get it later on. Mm-hmm. I do trust what James Gunn's doing. He probably has enough confidence, and look, we're gonna take this kid. This movie was solely about getting you introduced to this character, world building, having fun. I wanted to set the tone. So again, I'll trust it. But if I'm just basing on that movie, I wanted to see a little bit more of that. But overall, again, I know you loved it. I enjoyed it. I liked it. And I'm excited. I'm very excited to see. And that's another positive. I'm excited to see this DCU get built out, because he's going to concentrate on characters. Once he gets these big characters established, I'm more excited. Everybody's wanting to know what the Batman's going to be doing. How does it affect the Matt Reeves stuff? That's a different episode for a different day. I'm excited to see what he does with these smaller characters I've never even heard of.
Yeah, Lantern Corps.
Yes. Really cool. I'm excited I'm so excited to see what he does with those characters, because that's what he did with Guardians. Is took some characters that I truly had no idea who they were, and they're some of my favorite comic book characters now. But yeah, that was a great conversation. That'll wrap up our episode, man. And this was a good one. Like I said, Superman is in the books. Still have some summer movies coming up that we'll be reviewing like this, and we'll keep our regular episodes. But normally when there's a review like this, we'll probably do something similar, especially for a big release. We'll just do a review episode. So anything you want to close with?
No, I'm very excited for where I think this is going to go. And I left the theater just thrilled with how they did Superman, how just kind of that feeling you get of just I don't really know how to explain it, but I just felt they got the tone.
What'd you think of Jimmy Olsen? We forgot to mention Jimmy Olsen. What'd you think of his character? I like the actor that plays him.
Yeah, I thought they kind of overdid the whole like
Yeah,
heartthrob thing because I mean I don't know, but to me he's not.
and the dude from SNL, I thought had
Dude, he was so
and so
funny.
limited screen time. He made some really funny. I wanted to touch on that before we wrapped up because I was like, dude, we forgot to mention. I think his name's Beck Bennett or something from SNL, but he was like the sports writer. I really like that. But no, but yeah, I'm with you. I think we could both agree we're excited to see where the DCU is headed. Definitely hyped for Peacemaker. Even though that's a television series, we're definitely going to be doing something on Peacemaker for sure.
Yeah.
Season 2. I think that's August 21st or something. So I can't wait for that.
Yeah.
But yeah, that'll do it for this episode of Movie Retreat. Definitely comment below what you thought of the movie. And if you're catching this on the long form, if you're catching this on one of the clips, definitely let us know what you think of the show and what you thought of Superman. And we will see you next time. I think you got to stop the recording.